Good afternoon, fellow safarians, and welcome to our sunset safari on a rather gloomy day. It hasn't cleared up much at all here in what's supposed to be sunny South Africa. My name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Senzo, and we are live from South Africa, which means that you can get hold of us on #SafariLive or on the YouTube chat if you want to ask any questions. Now, it's not just me at Djuma this afternoon. Woohoo! We have finally got some reinforcements in the form of Wildy the wildebeest. So VM is back. He is here and he'll be out with Ellie, so they'll be out and about as well. And we're back to complement on Djuma, which is going to be quite fantastic. Now, the plans for this afternoon is our monkey's disappeared, so we're going to carry on. But there was a vivid monkey that was watching us as we started. But our plans for the afternoon as well, I'm going to head south. Ellie's going to go north. I'm going to look for anything that resembles a spotted cat, given that we're trying to keep our cat streak going. And this morning we failed a little bit, given that we didn't have as much time. So I'm going to go check around Treehouse, Twin Dams, the Mulawati. I have a sneaky suspicion that maybe Tumba is somewhere around the Mulawati, so I'm going to hope that he's there. And I think Ali is going to be on Hyena Den duty, not Hyena Duty Den. And she's going to go across the Hyena Dens and then check around the northern side of Weatela and see if maybe there isn't something there, or even around maybe Bafuzuk Dam. She says she's got a feeling that little Shongile is going to be out this afternoon. So that's her sort of target and project. She's going to try and head that way. I'm going to head south, and well, hopefully it will be a successful afternoon. It's quite strange actually, when we were getting ready and getting out, to have both vehicles parked alongside each other once again and having a little bit of banter between everybody. It's very, very, very different from what it is. It's amazing how quickly you get used to things. You know, that used to be the norm when we used to have all the cars together and bushwalk going out. Now it was kind of gotten used to just the one vehicle and having it quite quiet before we started. And well, poor Pooji is probably feeling a little bit left out. What has happened to Pooji? I had Pooji here just now. I don't know what happened to Pooji. Pooji was somewhere there. Sorry, Senzo, my bad. I don't know what happened to Pooji. Pooji might have fallen out the car. I hope not. But if it has, oh well, we'll have to go back and find him. He was out and about just now as well. Sorry, Senzo. I almost took Senzo out completely. I was too busy looking for Pooji and looking at the camera. But while I try and concentrate on driving and try and get to where we're going to do time lapses, let's head across to Ellie, I think, who's going to say good afternoon to all of you. And I'm sure it'll be a very nice welcome back for VM the Wildebeest.
And welcome. My name is Ali, and on camera today we are welcoming VM back. Woohoo! So I'm sure he's very happy to be back, and we're all very thrilled to have him back, as like Tristan said. Now there's two of us going around all the way around Djuma. Now we are on Wendy today, and she is being a little bit moody. I think she has missed VM quite a bit, and VM, all the viewers are very happy to see you, and I'm sure he's very happy to at least present to them and say that he's happy to be back. And VM, where would you like to go today? We can go on an exploratory mission of Djuma for you. The place with the most leopards. The place with the most leopards. Okay, we can try the place for the most leopards. I'm not quite sure which one it is just yet. Tristan had quite a feeling of the Mulawati being the place for leopards, but we shall see. I'm not too sure, but I like that, the place of leopards. Yesterday actually the place of leopards was everywhere, VM, so hopefully today we'll carry on with all the good luck. But I think the first thing that we're gonna do is go check around one of the hyena dens, just because they are on our way, and one of the other vehicles is checking the other hyena den, so hopefully one of them will be active today. That will be very nice. Now, the weather is a little bit funny today, but I think it's getting a little bit better. You can see the clouds all the way cruising around, and that's actually not us. I'm a little bit afraid of switching Wendy off for the time being, so I think we're gonna keep her on for a while so that she gets used to driving again. Now, everything should be fine, but like we said, we had a little bit more of rain this afternoon, around about, I would say 1 o'clock this afternoon, which was quite nice, because then it was that nice soft rain that we need to make everything beautiful and green and lush again. So hopefully we will have no more of that for the afternoon drive, and the rain can come back clearly after we're done, because I'm not too sure how I would feel about getting wet, and you would have such a great welcome getting wet on your first drive back. Although, did you get wet in the Mara? All the time? Okay, so you must be used to this. We have been enjoying the lack of rain for the time being. But let's see, who knows? Maybe the mystery leopard that we saw around Buffelshoek was around yesterday. We had quite a debate, but I think the general was... Oh, I don't remember now what the general consensus was. I think we agreed that it was Impala. I, to be honest, didn't manage to see much of him, so if you guys managed to ID him yesterday, do let us know, because I'm very curious to find out who it is that we saw and who it is that we might expect to see again this afternoon. Hopefully he would have come back. Let's see. Beach, if you're wondering who won the Tristan won to the date, exactly. He said that it was going to start raining on the 27th of September, and we had about 10 to 15 millimeters of rain. September.
Well, unfortunately, it seems a few little gremlins are on Wendy once again. Hopefully they sort those out and that she'll be back with us. But, well, we've just finished our time lapse. We had Senzo out and about. And Senzo, how are you looking today? I haven't even looked at Senzo's fashion today. I think he's looking quite suave. Yes, he's all in black today. So he's got himself some black pants. I'm going to describe to you what Senzo's wearing. He's got his bush boots on, which are a nice tan color. You can show those, Senzo. Off you go. Come on. No, you've got to. Come on, buddy. We can't just let people down. So there we go. You can see he's got his little bush colored shoes on, and then he's got some skinny black pants on, which are looking quite good, and then a black collared button down shirt, a black jersey under the button down shirt, and then he's got a green jacket and a black trench coat, and what's color socks? Grey colored socks today. So Senzo is going for what matches the moody weather. He's going to be grey and dark and all of that for this afternoon, and well, I'm hoping when we get some sunshine the colors will be back, because we need a bit of brightening up in our day. So for those of you that were wondering what's happening with Senzo's socks and whether or not he's brightly colored, well, today he's dressed a little bit more like a crow than a lilac-breasted roller. Now, we did find Pooji. Everyone will be happy to know he didn't fall out. Pooji is still with us. Pooji's fine. He's not being punished for anything. It's just that Rusty's not the best place for Pooji. Unfortunately, Rusty doesn't really do well for Pooji, so poor Pooji has to hide next to me. So Pooji goes over there, and that's where Pooji's got to stay for the afternoon, because he's not allowed to kind of fall off, and been a little bit naughty lately on Rusty, so I'd rather send him back towards Wendy with Ali over the next little bit, because I think Ali will stay in Wendy and I will stay in Rusty. It just works out much easier. Now, this afternoon, while Ali and I do roam around the dark, dingy Djuma, I believe Jamie Patterson is also out and about in the Mara, and she is apparently looking very stylish today, and I wonder what her plans are.
Well, I have to say the Giraffe are almost as stylish as we are, don't you think, Dave? I hear that Tristan's been making comments about my hat. A very good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to the Sunset Safari. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon Dave is on camera with me once again. Dave's pretty stylish, you know, I have to say. Dave tends, especially in winter, less so in summer. That sounds terrible. That's not what I meant at all. I just meant that you, with your scarf, don't you remember you had that really trendy black scarf last year? What happened to that scarf? You lost it. I mean, we are, of course, incredibly fashion-conscious people out here. We're always meticulous about our appearance. That's not true. No, very good afternoon to all of you. As you know, we are building up here in the Masai Mara to the finale of our migration experience. That is where we are for our new viewers. So you've been in South Africa with Tristan. You are now in the Masai Mara of Kenya, which is really quite the feat of technology when you think about it, that you can be live from 2 different countries in Africa and go on a safari. So because we're live, don't forget to send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter. We've got this lovely group of Giraffe, and what's really nice about it is we're almost eye level with them, which, as you can imagine, doesn't often happen with Giraffe. And that's because they're in this river system over here. And for those of you learning the geography of the area, or learning basically a little bit more about where we go and where we are, we're at the Sausage Tree Pride Lugger, or drainage line, where I've lost them probably a total of 4 or 5 times. I know where they are. We'll go back to them later. They're so sleepy, I thought we'd take the opportunity to go for a little drive around first. Giraffe slowly making their way out. Thank you for all the compliments on the hat. Apparently Tristan is saying that Brent Leo Smith is the trendiest of all here at Safari Live. I have to say I couldn't agree more. It's the color clashing shukers that really complete the image. And then hair that is slightly in need of a haircut. I couldn't agree more, Tristan. Also, says the person who's got what is that thing that Tristan's been carrying around on his dashboard? Poogie. Yeah, I know. David's looking at me in horror. I don't know, I've just been seeing screenshots of that emoticon sitting, or a real life physical form of that emoticon sitting on Tristan's dashboard. Not quite sure exactly what's going on there. We do miss them, and it's going to be very strange doing the TV show without VM around, but I'm glad to hear that he's back on Djuma. Hey girl. A youngster coming out in front of us. And it's still hard to believe to me that we're in the same... that it's the same place that we were in a few weeks ago. Oh, there's an eland. All the big animals. Here we go, there's that massive bull eland that also hangs around here. Right, well, speaking of big animals, it seems like Tristan has upped the ante.
Well, we have upped the ante a little bit. It's not the spotted cat that we were looking for, but it is still a beautiful group of elephants and wonderful to see them. I'm pretty sure it's the same herd I had this morning. I'm just trying to find a short trunk in amongst them. It's a small grouping once again, and it's not too far north from where I left them this morning. And given the weather that we've had, I think it's been a day of just slowly ambling around the northern Sabi sands looking for any signs of food. So they've been in amongst these thickets, they've been in the open grassy areas, and they've been slowly but surely just feeding their way northwards. Eventually I think they're going to get towards Gardenia Dam, and they'll probably have a drink there, but the need to drink and the desire for water will be far less today than it would have been on a very, very hot day. That would have driven them to water much quicker. Today they can just slowly amble along. They're not losing huge amounts of moisture. They're also not dehydrating from the sun beating down on them, and so it can be a much slower process as they get to water, and they'll probably eventually get there this evening. I'd imagine at the rate that they're feeding now, it will probably take them about 3-4 hours just to get towards Gardenia Dam, but they are heading slowly in that direction and pointing that way at the moment. So I don't know if it's exact same herd though. Difficult to say. The views that we've got of them are just big grey bums in amongst the grey dead trees at the moment. So I suppose they're not dead trees, the wintry trees should we say, because all of those will have green leaves fairly shortly, and then those elephants would be almost not visible if it was the summer months. But it looks like the same sort of composition of the herd. I can't see nicely, but it does look like a similar composition. Of course, we do get multiple different herds of elephants through here, and once one herd comes, generally we find a situation where multiple different groupings come in, and we end up with an almost influx of elephants into the area. And some days we'll be out here and there'll be literally a herd around every single corner, and like I say, sometimes it happens just as one herd comes through, then the rest start arriving as well, and we end up with a little bit of an elephant invasion. And let's hope that's on the cards for the next little bit, because elephants really are such a wonderful creature, and to spend time around them, particularly here in the Sabi Sands where they're relaxed, they are approachable, they come really quite close, and they're not very nervous of us. They're a wonderful animal to spend time with, and the interactions that they have, not only with us but with each other and with the herd, and the way that they sort of feed and the way that they interact with their young, and drinking and playing in mud, all of those things are just the most wonderful sort of animal to watch and to spend time with. And like I say, I find elephants very interactive. I find elephants like to know what's going on. They're curious, they come towards you, they investigate, they're looking around, they interact with their environment, and that they use trees and roots and grasses and soil and mud and water and everything that is a component of their area they will utilize and mess around with. And on top of it, they also have a little bit of a cheeky side to them, and they'll chase birds and all kinds of other things. So I really do love spending time with them, and it's the perfect way to start our afternoon. Palin, you're asking if elephants destroy many trees. Now I'm going to ask Senzo just to zoom out a little bit for me, and I want to show you just how many trees the elephants have destroyed in this area alone. So as we come out, just look at the number of trees. That tree on the left with the nest that is in it, so the one at the back there, well, there's one right there that's been pushed over by an elephant and destroyed. Then the one that was standing and sort of silhouetted with those big black balls or nests on it, the one to the right of that, and if Senzo just pans all the way to the right, you'll just see multiple different dead trees. All those tall trees have been destroyed by elephants, and what's happened with those is most of them have been ring-barked, and the one in front of us is probably the easiest one to show you why I say they've been ring-barked. If we go close in on that tree's trunk, you'll see that there is bark there, and then there is no bark. And so what's happened is the elephants have fed around that, and they're looking for a red layer called the cambium layer. Now, the cambium layer is the transport system from the roots of this tree up to the leaves of this tree, and it allows this tree to survive. Once they strip the bark all the way around this tree, it then unfortunately cuts that, and the tree starts to die and to rot. It also exposes it to all kinds of wood-boring insects and various other things, and this tree then dies. And so all of those dead trees, as Senzo was panning across, is all because of elephants ring-barking them and stripping the bark for food. And there you can see a lot of fallen over dead trees that have been pushed, and a lot of that would have been done last year during the drought. At the end of the day, they didn't have any grass to feed off last year, so they had to go after trees, and they pushed a lot of the trees down and utilized those. So yes, they can be very damaging, but in the same breath, with elephants, what you will find is that they're exposing food to other animals. So when they push a tree down, like this acacia that Senzo's just shown you, that will be food for another animal that maybe couldn't have reached that. So something like a nyala or a kudu or an impala that maybe couldn't reach those leaves, it's now reachable for them. It's also going to create a habitat for, like we were saying, wood-boring insects, scorpions. We'll find genets, lilac-breasted rollers, owls, all kinds of things will nest in those big dead trees. So even though they are destroying a tree, they're still creating an environment for other species to thrive. And so sometimes people look at destruction and they say elephants are bad animals and they're making a lot of mess and we are overpopulated and they're destroying the environment. But in the actual side of things is we have only been watching for such a short period of time and monitoring for such a short period of time. We don't know the full extent of how elephants work and what their role is within the environment. The other side of it is we have kind of closed off the way that they move, and that means that they increase pressure in a certain area. But who knows, maybe this is how elephants work, is that they will flatten a certain section and then they move into another area, and that section then repopulates with trees and it just re-stimulates the environment. We don't know that just yet because our history with them is just too short from studying them. But yes, they do have a big impact on our big trees out here, particularly the species of tree that I showed you. All those dead big trees are called knobthorns, and so all of them have been really hammered. And in fact, the Kruger National Park at the moment is trying to section off big tracts of land where there's knobthorn forests and trying to push all the elephants out there. Then they fence it off and they allow those young knobthorns to grow and to get big, because they reckon that the bigger knobthorns are far less likely to be attacked than the smaller ones. And so they're trying to section off, and then as that section comes right, they then move it to the next section, and they just kind of rotate it, and they keep elephants out of certain areas to keep the knobthorn forests alive and well. So it's an interesting thing. I mean, also at the end of the day, a lot of destruction on these big knobthorns and various other trees during the drought last year was blamed on elephants, and it actually wasn't. A lot of it was also to do with termites. So we find that the termites last year, because there was no grass, they actually started stripping the bark off trees, and there was a serious amount of damage done to trees by termites last year as well. So not just the Ellies, but what I'm going to do is, because the visual of these Ellies is not great, I want to just go around the corner. I can see another elephant that was in the road and standing right next to the road, so might as well go and have a little look at that Ellie instead of staring off at the ones in the distance that are a bit obscured by a few trees. So we're just going to come round. There's actually 3 or 4 of them here, so there's a few more than I thought. There we go. So take care. An elephant has 4 teeth basically. So it's got 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom, and they are massive when they're fully grown. They're not a small tooth at all. It's not like our teeth. But they do get 6 sets of those 4 teeth in their lifetime. So what will happen is when they start out, their teeth are a little bit smaller. They chew on things, it wears down. And as those teeth are wearing, so the next set of teeth is pushing forward in the jaw. It's much like a train track, if you want to call it that. And they kind of push out, and those small teeth, once they are redundant, basically fall out, and the next set sets in. And then that keeps going and through their lifetime until such time as the last set wears down. And actually, a lot of elephants here in Africa die because of that last set wearing down, and they can no longer find the relative nutrients and feed off the nutrients to survive. So they get into a situation where they're eating, teeth are wearing down, they can no longer feed off bark, they can no longer feed off roots, they can no longer get cambium. Sorry, I kept quiet just because they were rumbling a little bit and just talking to each other. And so they have a struggle then to find food, and they move then into riverbed systems or soft vegetation areas, which is generally where there's a lot of water, and they'll feed off grasses and reeds and those kind of things. Eventually, even that becomes too difficult for them to break down and digest, and they start to then emaciate and basically starve to death. It's a pretty horrible way to go, and you would think that nature would have come up with a more efficient way to kill them, but alas, they haven't. Now, we're going to sit with our Ellies a while longer. It really is a wonderful way to start our safari. And so while we sit with these guys, I believe Ellie has found, I think, what is Murder Inc. And for those of you who don't know, Murder Inc. is the ground hornbill flock.
We did. We found actually a few of them, but they have seemed to carry it on walking in the same direction where this one is. Funny enough, we saw them from the other road that is parallel to this one. We drove around just to be able to try and get a closer look at them. And then, of course, now that we are on the other side of the road, then they have gone back to where they were initially, just to try and make it everything easier. But these beautiful turkey-like creatures that we're looking at, these are the beautiful ground hornbills. And I think it's a flock of about maybe 4. I think that's what I counted. I may be adding 1. And obviously they are, as this one did, in that very common flick of the head. They're busy looking for food, and when they do catch it, then they tilt their head backwards, open their beak, and pretty much pop whatever it is that they're eating into their mouth. Tristan had quite an interesting sighting of them a few days ago, where they appear to either be finishing off or killing or heading against the remains of the carcass of another ground hornbill. But in this case, luckily, it's quite a nice family affair. They're all busy looking for food and nobody's getting killed in the process. Because it is very sad, because these birds are still considered somewhat endangered in this area, and they are not as common as we would like them to be. Gone behind the termite mound. Now I see the road is heading back in that direction, so I think what we're going to do is actually try and go around once more, see if maybe we can have a nice view of them, because they seem to be up to a lot of things, so hopefully we'll be able to get another view of them instead of them coming back this side. Ooh, yes, Wendy, you're turning on. Woohoo! I was a bit nervous there for 1 second, but let's see. Hopefully we'll be able to see them again. Where did you go, guys? Come back! Now they are probably some of my favorite animals around here, just because that's so striking, and the noise that they make, the sound is very beautiful, and it's almost like water. I don't know how else to explain the sound that they make. Is very beautiful. Now I thought the road was closer, but I think I am mistaken, and I actually saw a master drain, which are these things here on the side of the road that are designed just to deviate the water flow. So if the water starts flowing on the road, it will normally come up from there all the way from the front and then go all the way down here. So they actually design them to help with the road, or the maintenance of the roads, and to avoid them getting damaged by the rain. At this time of the year, not too much to worry about, but when we do get the proper thunderstorms that go on for a few days at a time, and when there's lots of water coming down, you want to try and get the water out of the roads so that the roads don't get damaged and they don't get really around. Now I'm going to drive around again, see if maybe these hornbills will stick around in our search for VM's welcome back leopard. I wonder who it's going to be. Ooh, Parrot! Stop flying! Yes! Alright, seems like it's the day of the colorful birds. Hello, beautiful. This is a brown-headed parrot. You see that beautiful striking, and that color, that very high-pitched noise. I think he is indulging in the fruits of that bush willow over there, or at least that's what he seems to be eating in quite a fashion. Yep, is it yummy? Grabs it with its feet, goes into the mouth, eats a little bit, just gets the tasty inside part, and then when he's done, poof, off to the ground it goes. Well, this was a nice surprise. There's a pair that we always see around camp, but I'm very happy to see them outside, because we see them often, but you just see those bright flashes of green flying around, because the bottom part of their body is of that very striking green. Are you gonna fly? I was almost hoping that he was going to fly. Ooh, there we go. Very beautiful and green. Mr. P, you're wondering if I could be a bird. What bird would I be? I don't know. My favorite birds are oxpecker, to eat ticks all day long. So that's the part that I'm not 100% sure about. But I think maybe a fish eagle would be nice to be. or a ground hornbill. I think actually maybe I'm leaning more towards ground hornbill because they're just so big and they're always in groups and they have this beautiful call, and I cannot sing, so I'm very jealous of all the creatures that can do that. So probably ground hornbill would be the one. Or an owl. I would like to be an owl too, like a Pels fishing owl. We're going to try and see if maybe we can find these ground hornbills again. If not, then we're going to leave this area and move on to hopefully greener pastures or animals wherever they might be. But while we do that, I'm pretty sure that we are going to be able to head back to Tristan. Seems to be enjoying the company of a lot of elephants.
Well, I am indeed, but I'm a bit perplexed as to why Ali would want to eat ticks all day. I don't think I would want to be something that ate ticks. Ticks freak me out completely, and I get absolutely assaulted by them. So I suppose an oxpecker would be a good thing, because I could exact some revenge on the myriad of ticks that have bitten and fed off my blood over the years, and maybe that's actually a good one to be, just to, like I say, exact a bit of revenge on the tick world. But actually, I suppose for me, I would want to be something that's able to fly and quite high and to see amazing things, and oxpeckers just don't fly enough for me to want to be them as a bird. I think I would probably go for a eagle of some sorts. In fact, I know what I would be. I would be a crowned eagle. That's what I would want to do, fly through the forested areas of Africa, and you have massive, incredibly powerful talons, and well, you just look pretty badass as well. Crowned eagles seem to have this look on their faces like they mean business, and I like them. I don't know why. It's just always been one of my favorite birds, and I feel like they would be an amazing bird to kind of be, and to soar and to see the world from up there would be quite wonderful. Now, something that will never be flying and never be soaring, even though cartoons have made them do it before, is our elephants. Unfortunately for them, they are ground-based, but I suppose as an elephant, when you are the king of what goes on out here, it's not that unfortunate. You are big, is strong, and therefore can keep everybody at bay, which is also quite cool. Sinak, this is an interesting question, because for a long time when I first started guiding and I spoke to a few people, they used to tell me that elephants don't get ticks, and that's why you don't see oxpeckers on elephants. Now, that is completely not true. Alright, elephants do get ticks. They get one specific type of tick that I keep seeing. I'm yet to find the exact name for it, but it is a massive big white tick that they get, a grey-white color. Generally find it between their front legs, so on their sort of chin areas and chest and between the legs, and sometimes even on the legs itself, and then every now and then you will find them on the sort of tail area, but not that common. So while they do have a very thick skin, and ticks do battle a little bit to get into places where they can find blood, and elephants are very good at looking after themselves in that they'll dust bathe regularly, they swim a lot, which is a good way to get rid of a lot of ticks. They still do get them. There is the odd ticks, it's just that their tick count is much lower than any other species we have out here. Things like impalas, kudu, nyala, buffalo, even rhinos, giraffe, they have very high tick counts, and that means that it's easy for oxpeckers to feed off them and to find them. On elephants, not so much. You will find probably in this herd structure maybe 5 or 6 ticks in total throughout this whole herd, whereas if you had this many buffalo together, you would have probably easily a couple hundred, 300-400 adult ticks and thousands of little larvae ticks. So it would be a situation where there's just not enough food for oxpeckers to even waste their time. Plus, I would imagine an oxpecker would be receiving a few trunk blows to the head should it feed off a tick on an elephant. So elephants are able to look after themselves. They will get rid of them. Sometimes you'll find those ticks just feed to the point where they look as though they're going to burst, and then they drop off, and it seems to have no ill effect on the Ellies. Do you see one there, Senzo? Yes, there might be one. It's not the grey-white ones that I was talking about, but Senzo can spot something just on the front right leg there. So the leg far from us, you can see it looks like a tick that is on there as well. So hopefully he'll just pull his right leg forward. There we go. It looks like at least 2 ticks on that leg. So you can see that they do get parasites in the form of ticks. But you can imagine to cause any damage to an elephant, that, and especially the amount of blood that they've got. Remember, there's about 350 liters of blood inside an elephant's body, and so the amount of bacteria or toxins that a tick excretes from its mouthparts would have to be so much to affect an elephant in any way that they very seldom are affected by ticks. They're not like some of the other animals out here that do get some complications from tick bites. This little one is full of nonsense, though. It's been throwing its ears out at us regularly. It's because there's a bit of a breeze that kind of kicks up every now and then, and our scent is blowing towards it. Also, I'm sure the scent of Rusty is not that pleasant at the moment, even for myself and Senzo. We're sitting here and we have breathing in quite heavy petrol fumes at the moment, so I think there must be a little issue somewhere where there's a bit of petrol leaking, and so maybe this elephant is also picking up the petrol smell and finding it a little bit offensive as well, and that's why I keep seeing it ears out whenever the wind blows. Michael, you're asking if this elephant is young. Yes, this is a fairly young elephant. I would age this elephant probably in its teens, so I would say early teens, maybe 12, 13, somewhere around there. It could be a little bit older than that, but it is a young elephant. Small tusks, small body size, and doesn't have sunken in temples yet, so the area just between the eyes and the ears is still quite filled out, which is often a sign of when they age, is that part there will just sink in a little bit. So this is a younger individual, like I say, teens area, young teens is where it would be. Now, as a male elephant or a female elephant, as a young teen, it depends on what you are as to what you're going to do. This looks like a little young female, so she will be part of the herd and will start breeding fairly shortly. So as a female elephant, normally around 12 is when they can start breeding, and they will then produce their first calf, normally around 14 and a half, sometimes 15. Then from there, then it's just a succession of calves as they go through life every couple of years. If it's a male, then he might be lucky and be tolerated until he's about 15 years old, and then at which case he's probably going to be pushed out of the herd. So this little female at least is going to be here for a while longer still. At least, should we say. Jonathan, you're asking if there are pygmy elephants in Africa. No. So what we do have in Africa is we've got this savanna elephant, and then we get what's called a forest elephant. Now, the forest elephant is a lot smaller than what we see from these savanna elephants. They are sort of evolved to have survived in forest areas where it's thicker, it's denser. They can't have that same bulk to move around those sections. Also, it's muddy all the time, and heavier weight means they're going to be sucked in and they're just going to tire themselves out all the time. So a big forest elephant would be about this size, from what Brent tells me, because Brent is probably the only one on our crew that's actually seen the forest elephants up in Gabon. And one day we were discussing size with him, and he was saying that some of the big males would not even reach some of the size of the big females that we see here. So most females would be like our young females that we've got in front of us, are relatively small individuals, and therefore they, I suppose, could be classed as smaller, but definitely not pygmy. And that's the only elephants really that we get here in Africa, is these guys and those forest elephants. And you can see the size of the female in the background, and look at her temples. When I was talking about aging of an elephant, if you compare the forehead of this female closest to us, and then you look at the one in the back, you see how just between the eyes and the ears, that skin is sunken right in comparison to this individual in front of us. So that's how we use age. Also, her size and bulk is way bigger than what this one closest to us is. You'll see it when she gets a little bit nearer. She's going to slowly but surely approach, and already you can see her shoulder height is much taller than this elephant closest to us. A lot bulkier, big mammary glands from having a number of different young, and even a herniated stomach to a bit. Proudcat Mama, you're wondering what is the average size of an elephant's trunk? Well, I don't know if you mean in length in terms of feet, but I would imagine in terms of feet on an adult individual. Remember that obviously the trunk grows throughout their life, so it's growing as the elephant grows. There's no sort of average size for a young elephant or anything like that. But let's take adults hypothetically, and I would say that probably you find in adults that their trunks fully extended, because remember that the muscle can extend quite extensively. It's not just what you see when it's carrying it. It will extend out a little bit more. I would say fully extended, that we're looking at probably, I would say 10-11 feet fully extended on an adult elephant, but I might be wrong. I mean, I don't know if there is actually an accurate calculation as to how long they are, but I think it's about 10-11 feet. I might be wrong. It might be a little bit longer than that on the big bull elephants, but somewhere around that area. In terms of weight, it will weigh, a fully grown male elephant's trunk can weigh over 300 pounds. So it is a very heavy object, and it is all muscles. There's no bone structure in there, and that's how they're able to move their trunk around, to manipulate it in ways to be able to feed off grasses and plants and roots and bark and all the various other items that we have out here that they like to feed on. But she really is, this is a beautiful individual. She's a big girl. You can see little one is coming slowly but surely. Come on, catch up. And you can actually see that this little one's, even though we can't see its tusks yet, you can see the tusks under the lip. So they haven't come out just yet, but you can actually see where the swelling is and where the teeth are slowly starting to emerge and come out. So she will have tusks at some point. She's not going to be tuskless. It's just that they haven't exposed, and that means that that elephant's probably about 4 years old. Generally, their tusks do start to show at about 4 years is when you first see them. But look at the size of this female. She is massive, massive, massive. I'm hoping the little one's going to come up alongside her, and it'll give you just an idea of how big she is. There we go. She is really a very big girl, and a little suckle maybe. How cool is that? Mom seems to be completely relaxed with the little one having a suckle. Sometimes when they're in feeding mode, they don't particularly like their little ones having a drink because they're wanting to move. But this mom is being very patient and is allowing that calf to have a good suckle of nutrients and nutrient-rich milk, should we say. Laurie, you're asking if I find the male elephants more cheeky in their teen years than what the females are. Most definitely. The males are full of nonsense and are often going all over the show and causing trouble. And the reason why is that in their teen years, so when they start getting to 12 years old, while the females are flushing with estrogen, the males are flushing with testosterone. And so now they want to prove themselves as the big animal. They've seen mom chasing other animals around, and so they often get the same with their ears out, and they trumpet and they carry on. And so yes, young males often are the cheekiest of the group, but they soon learn. And that's why you've got to be, when you're around elephants, and it's one of the big problems that we have with national parks and people doing self-drives and those kind of things where they drive themselves, is that young bull elephants will often try their luck. But the thing is that you've almost got to teach them in a way that that's not acceptable, and you've got to stand your ground. They will be too nervous to follow through because these are the first few times that they're trying this, and they're still a little bit unsure of themselves. And if people then just drive away and try and get away from that elephant, the elephant is just going to think, well, every time I chase, then I'm going to do it. And if then somebody comes along and doesn't do it, then it feels like it's being challenged, and it's going to push that little bit harder and maybe make contact with the car. So it's a situation that you've got to sometimes be a little bit firm with the young boys because they are cheeky and they are naughty. Now our female and her calf are going to slowly feed their way along. I'm not sure how much longer we're going to be able to keep visual of them as they cross over towards a rather thick, deep drainage line that's not very good for vehicles, and so we'll try and keep hold of them and try and watch them for a little bit. But before Ellie's bird of prey flies away, let's go across to her.
Well, it seems like we've been very lucky with the birds of prey. We are looking at a dark chanting goshawk over here, although the colors are not that great because of the way that the sky is today. But he seems to have caught something. VM believes it's a bird, and I think I might agree with him just because now I can almost see a few feathers coming in or flying all the way in the wind. It was actually a squirrel that pointed us out towards where the bird of prey was, because you can hear them there in the background. It's almost like a laugh that the squirrels make. And it was all the way in the background making that noise, and then all of a sudden this little squirrel was coming around. Now I'm going to perhaps have to move the car around, so just please bear with me 1 second while I do that, just because we are in the main road and we just need to let somebody come through. So we're gonna get out of the way, and then we're gonna go look at our beautiful bird of prey once more. Hello. Good, thanks. There's a dark chanting goshawk there with the kill. A what? Dark chanting goshawk. Just all the way there. Hello, puppies. Cool. Thank you very much. Alrighty. Now we can go all the way back and carry on as we were. Now, I think maybe there, VM. Is that gonna be good for you? Alright, sorry about guys, we are in a bit of a main road, so we've got to be polite and let other people go through. David, you say this is number 47 on your bird list, and then of course I miscalculated and now there's a branch in the way. So, but you guys get the idea. I'm very glad, David, that this is a new bird for you and is a very nice one to have. Funny enough, on the, I would say, northeastern corner of South Africa, we get the dark chanting goshawk, and then on the eastern side of South Africa, we get the pale chanting goshawk, and they're virtually or essentially the same. It's just a bit of a difference in coloration that makes it all a little bit funnier and hard to spot. Now, I've got the book here, and I would just like to show you guys what they look like in the book, just to give you a bit of an idea, because the weather today is unfortunately not helping us out all that much. So you see we are looking at this one over here, the dark chanting goshawk. Very beautiful bird. So you see we've got the bright red legs and the bright red beak around here, so easy to spot all around here. And then on top of the dark chanting goshawk, of course, we get the pale chanting goshawk, which looks pretty much the same. Pretty much the same, just a little bit of a different color. Ooh. So you see, there's just a bit of a difference in coloration. Sorry, Megan, I believe that you were trying to say something to me, but unfortunately the radio was a bit too loud. Sinak, you were wondering about the difference between the different goshawks. Well, a lot of it is just size, so, and coloration between the dark and the pale chanting. Other than that, they're pretty much the same. And then also the other one, we have a few different ones, like the Gabar goshawk, for example. It's just a lot smaller than these two that we're looking at. We've actually seen, and the Gabar goshawk also, just in terms of strange birds of prey, because it seems like we've been lucky with the birds of prey lately. They also get a dark morph, just like we get the Wahlbergs that have a pale morph. Then we get the Gabar goshawks, which is a smaller version of this one that we're looking at, that they can go entirely black, and it's actually a very interesting view. And it's, I would say, just about maybe 10 centimeters smaller than the one that we're looking at. Must have been quite hard to catch whatever it is, because we haven't seen it feed on it, not even once. I think probably that squirrel is still irritating it. James, you're wondering which raptor species has the most color morphs. Well, I think Wahlberg's eagles are one of them, as we saw the other day. Very, very strange creatures. Booted eagles are clearly also some of the ones that are very strange, or not strange, but they're just different, because they can go very dark, very light, and pretty much anything in between. So that makes it very hard to identify. Now, if there's one perhaps that has more than 3 different color morphs, there's not to my knowledge, at least. I cannot think of anyone that's perhaps got the most color morph out of them all, because once that you start pointing out the one, then you will find that a lot of them have an average maybe 2 to 3 different color morphs. Where they go, there'll be a light version of them, and then obviously a dark version of them as well, even for the same species. And you can see how the wind is now started to blow, just ruffling all the goshawk's feathers now. Very beautiful. Now there's some grooming. I think he's not going to feed for a little while. It's just carried on grooming. So look at this. Pretty much impossible to see him. So I think we're going to carry on. See if perhaps we can find the welcome VM leopard. Hopefully we will. But we've decided to go and check the new road. Before I forget, we did go and check the hyena den. But unfortunately it was not active, the one on Gallagher Shortcut, and somebody else checked the one on Ovaries, and that one also wasn't active. And in weather like this, it's pretty normal for the cubs just to stay inside, because it's very cold out here. So not ideal. While we make our way onto the new road, I'm going to send you guys across to Jamie, all the way on the Masai Mara.
So while Ali moves on from her bird of prey, we've got a herd of elephants to enjoy. I've decided we'll leave the lions until right up until the last minute, simply because Dave and I are going to be spending a considerable period of time with them. So I thought we'd do a little trip around, and we've stumbled upon such a pond, such a sweet family scene. Lots of little baby elephants around, and I actually noticed at the back there was one that was sleeping, and then there's a second one that's sleeping off to my left, completely fast asleep. All that's moving is the odd ear. There, that one. Having a nap. And we talk of elephants sleeping, and people often ask questions about how far do they travel, do they walk all night, and those sorts of questions. And it's really lovely when you see them in a situation like this where the adults are peacefully feeding, and it's essentially a dedicated rest time for the little ones. There she goes, beating the grass, beating the dust off the grass. Obviously isn't particularly enjoyable to grab a trunk full of grass that is actually... Oh, there goes baby. Up, come on. Up you get. It's a bit difficult to get to your feet when you've just woken up from a nap. But obviously a mouthful of soil is not what you want as an accompaniment to your grass. It doesn't really bring out the flavors. So you'll usually see elephants beat the trunk, or beat the grass using their trunk to get rid of it. Oh, I know exactly how you feel, little one. I'm also always starving after a nap. Look at it. It's all sleepy. Droopy-eyed. The elephants drink their mother's milk for quite a considerable period of time. They'll start to wean, so they'll start to feed off solid food at 6 months, but they'll continue to suckle from their mother for up to 3 years, and sometimes even longer, depending upon whether or not the mum does fall pregnant with another calf. So they do suckle for a long period of time, and what's always fascinating to watch is the weaning tantrums that they have. When they get to that sort of age where it's time for them to really move on to solid food completely, they go and they try and suckle, and then mom says no. Whether she pulls her leg back or she actually gets slightly more angry and she pushes the little one away. And baby elephants can scream. There's not another sound on this planet that is like a baby elephant screaming. And a lot of the time, oh, it's a hyena. Random. Surprise. They just pop out of everywhere here. Elephants and hyenas, probably some of the most distinctive noises. Oh look, now we've got another nap. Another baby elephant napping. Oh, it's so flat it's actually almost invisible. There it is, it's just in the middle there, in the gap. Oh, now Tula Ann. Tula Ann is wondering. Now, Tula Ann is one of our 5-year-old viewers. Tula Ann, you're wondering if an elephant ear is bigger than you. Tula Ann, I bet that if you curled up tight like this, I bet you'd be smaller than an elephant ear. A big elephant ear, a big bull or a big female, I think you could fit inside an elephant ear. Not inside the ear canal, obviously. That sounded a little bit peculiar. But I think you'd be, and in fact, Tula Ann, you know what? I think if we found you an elephant footprint, I think you could fit inside their footprint as well, if you curled up nice and tight. So yes, I think an elephant ear might just be bigger than you. But, Tula Ann, if you were to hold your arms out wide, then no, probably not. I think if you stretched your arms out like this, then you'd probably be a little bit bigger than an elephant ear. Especially that little baby's ear. The little one's got a distinctive tip missing to the top right ear. That's going to be that way for the rest of its life. Little boy. Proud cat mama. Of all of the animals out here, speaking of vocalizations and the hyena that we saw and the elephants, yes, elephants, and in fact, to be completely honest with you, almost all animals out here have both verbal and they have both sort of expressed sounds that they make to communicate, and they communicate silently as well. So the silent communication occurs through body language nuances, and there is a huge amount of research into something as complex as an elephant, because they really are complex creatures, and they're so attuned to speaking each other's language. But an elephant can tell you that it's upset with you, and I mean, human beings can learn to read that language as well. Even the silent silent language. Elephant will tell you when it's upset with you without making a sound. The most important parts: ears, tail, and the trunk in terms of elephant body language. So a head up with its ears out and completely still. Important ways of gauging an elephant's mood. Their tails as well. If you watch elephants while they're feeding peacefully, that tail is moving, swishing constantly. When that tail goes still, that elephant is focusing on something. Not necessarily angry, but focused on something. When it is held out stiff at 90 degrees to the body, that elephant is angry or upset or frightened. So it really, elephant's body language, I would say the basics are probably some of the easiest to learn out here. Then there's nuances. A lot of the time, a completely dead still tail combined with a twisting trunk. Not the whole trunk, obviously, while they're feeding, but when the tip twists just a little bit, it's often a sign that that elephant is thinking, is in a moment of indecision. And those sort of nuances you can learn as time goes on. Then obviously there's the vocal sounds. Most of the time with elephants, it's either communication through very deep, calming rumbles, and it's the way of the older females that they sort of keep track of the various herd members and also other herd members around them, or other herds around them. So it's got quite a long-reaching potential. And then screams, trumpets are usually signs of distress or frustration. That pretty much summarizes all the animals out here, though. Cheese potato? I'm sorry, it was a serious question and I just had a little chuckle because I was thinking about how much I would kill for a cheese potato. Dave, how amazing would that be? Cheese potato. Cheese potato, do elephants really mourn? Not, I think, in the way that people would have you believe. I think that there is a degree of anthropomorphizing there. Will they go up and touch the carcass of an elephant? Yes. Will a mother mourn when her baby dies? Yes. Do they have complex funeral rites? No. Will they be sad when they lose a herd member? Yes, I think they would. I think they're complex enough. I think that they're smart enough. You'll find that there will be people who will disagree with me, and I guess we will never know. I do think that they will go up and touch the carcass because it's something that smells. It's a herd member that's now no longer alive. They will also go up and touch the carcasses of other animals if they find them in the bush. They'll go and have a look at them. So do they mourn? They don't have graveyards. They don't have funeral processions or funeral services. But yes, do they feel sad? Of course they do, I think. You'll find that people disagree with me. Who knows? I don't know whether or not Tristan agrees with me or if he does not, but I'm sure he will tell you if you ask him.
Well, I will, Jamie, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I agree with the fact that elephants show a far bigger range of emotions than we give them credit for. We think that these are individuals that are not capable of having emotion, but they most certainly are. I've spent a lot of time with elephants in my life and done a lot of time with orphaned elephants even, where I've watched them in a state of complete shell shock and sadness, where they segregate themselves from everything and anything. They don't go anywhere, they don't want to feed, they don't want to do anything, and that is got to be some sort of sadness that they are showing. I mean, it's grief obviously, but there is also a sadness in it, and when there's something that dies or those kind of things that happen around them, for sure there is sadness in that. So I wholeheartedly agree with you, Jamie. I don't think that elephants are given enough credit for just how intelligent they are and just how I suppose evolved they are in terms of their thinking and their ability to use their brain. We always think that us as humans are the only ones that can rationalize and can think and can display human emotions, and we call them human emotions, but I think elephants of anything have some sort of emotions that they're able to display, much like us as people. Maybe not the full range and definitely not the same intelligence, obviously, otherwise they would be driving cars and doing all kinds of other things, but they most certainly do show emotions, and they are able of processing certain feelings and displaying those feelings on an outward manner. So for me at least, like I said, I mean, there are people that disagree with Jamie and will disagree with me as well, and will say that we are anthropomorphizing animals and making them out to be, humans, and they're not. But I can tell you that elephants are insanely intelligent, and that means that they will be able to process what's going on and work it out. Right, so we arrive at Treehouse Dam now. We are slowly but surely getting there. There's not too much that I can see from here. It's not to say that there isn't anything around. There could very well be some sort of animal around here. We're just going to slowly check it out. The problem is with all the rain that we've had and the cold overcast nights, is that I'm pretty sure even the likes of Shongile, Hosana, any of these leopards have taken advantage and could potentially be just sitting on kills close to where we are, and we just can't see them because they're slightly obscured by the road. So what I'm hoping is that it's been sort of 2 full days now since the rains came, and I'm hoping that that's going to drive them to at least go drink somewhere. There's not too many puddles around. There really is only water kind of at the dams at the moment, so that means that they've still got to head in these directions, and whether or not there's heat to drive them here is debatable. But at the end of the day, they've still got to look for water. They've still got to try and find water, and therefore make their way to places like this. Worth checking and worth double checking and the next course of the evening and afternoon, and I'm hopeful that we will find somebody somewhere in these general vicinities, whether that be Hosana or, like I say, Shongile, Tamba. One of them I'm sure is going to appear somewhere around here, and I'm hoping it is going to be Hosana at some point. I'm hoping that he's going to be at one of the dams, although I believe Twin Dams has been checked and there's no sign of any leopard at Twin Dams. But what we are about to get from Senzo. So Senzo, off you go. You have to do a little twirl when you go on the way there, a little pirouette. Are you going to do a pirouette for us? Come on, Senzo.
I'll do the catwalk for you.
The catwalk. Okay, so Senzo's going to do a catwalk. Let's see when he walks. Here we go. Come on, Senzo. You've got to do a proper fashion walk. There we go. He's giving the arm sway. Look at him go. It's a bit of swagger that he's got there. So Senzo's looking quite dapper, like I say, and looking very suave today with the black and the trench coat and the boots and the beanie, and there's even a smile. Look, he's even flashing a toothy grin at all of us. So being very, very cooperative. So, sorry, Megan, repeat that. Megan apparently has a quote that I need to use. So, yeah. As Senzo says, he was born with it. There we go. Senzo, there we go. Are you going to... There, look at that. It's a real man's man. Foot on the tire, arm on the dashboard, looking as good as he possibly can. Yes, Senzo, there we go. Look at that. Isn't it? He's better than some of our leopards in terms of posing for the camera. So he's really got away with the camera, and he's working the lens as best he can, as they say. So hopefully his time-lapse is almost done now, and then we'll be back to normal safari and the real safari that we are on, and not just making complete joke out of what's going on. But Senzo, well done. I think you can definitely build up a portfolio. I think what we'll try and do is just get him on film every time. We'll get all those different outfits of Senzo, all the different poses, and we can eventually build him a portfolio. And who knows, maybe we can land you a contract, Senzo, with all kinds of different... Actually, before we go anywhere, because I've spotted something that I do want to talk about, because it is really quite pleasant. Now, earlier, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, I was at this very spot, and Senzo was doing his thing, and I was chatting about gardenia flowers, and the gardenia that sits right over here, over my shoulder at the moment. Now, the gardenia at that stage had a bud, and the flower hadn't come out, but there we go. We can see the beautiful big white flower has now exposed itself and is looking ever so elegant. And these actually will smell very vibrant and flowery and florally, and it's going to be the most pleasant smell. You can also see how much the leaves have grown since we were here last time. Remember when we saw the bud, the leaves were tiny, 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 tiny. They hadn't even come out, but now we can see quite big leaves already developing on this gardenia bush, and that beautiful cream white flower. And eventually this whole tree will just be covered in cream white flowers that will slowly turn yellow as they age. Now remember, there was a yellow flower which is now shriveled up and died. It's just to the left there, Senzo, so there it is there on the left of your frame, and that's what unfortunately our yellow flower that we had the other day now looks like. So that's shriveled up and is finished. But isn't that nice to see a flower after this dreariness and the rain that we've had? That's what we're going to start seeing a lot of. There's going to be a lot of green and vibrance and flowers that are going to come out, and it's all going to be very spectacular. And the best thing about it is we get every single shade of green that you can imagine coming off of these plants, and then coupled with bright flowers like that, the whole landscape takes on a completely different atmosphere and tone, and it's going to be wonderful to see that taking place over the next few days and weeks. Although I will be on leave, so I'm pretty sure by the time I come back it's going to look a lot different to now when I leave. Right, since no leopard at Treehouse that I can see, what we're going to do is we're going to carry on. We're going to come back past Treehouse Dam a little bit later. As we saw with Ali the other night, I suppose it was a lot warmer, but she had Shadow and Cub and Sticks and Hosanna all around her, but most of them, well, especially the Sticks, were drinking late in the afternoon. So we're going to try and see if we can come back past here in the evening, and maybe, just maybe, a leopard has decided to make an appearance late in the afternoon. Now, while I do that, Ali has found something that I would imagine any one of our leopards would love to be chasing around right now.
Yes, they would, but Tristan, these are the future mothers, so no chasing around just as yet. We are in the presence of a breeding herd of Impala. Seems like there might be just one male around. I think I saw him earlier, but maybe he's gone off somewhere. And all of these beautiful girls, of course, they've gone where we cannot see them nicely, but it's very warm for them there. Except for this one, that's still being very nice. Now, if you look at their stomach, or most of their stomach, we are hoping that the majority of these girls are actually pregnant. So maybe, I don't know if this has been done already, but just the same way that we had the rain challenge, maybe we should start with the when are the woodlands coming back and when are the impalas dropping their babies. Maybe we should sit around and discuss which dates are whose. I'm going to put my baby impalas around about the 23rd of October. I'm going to be super optimistic because I want them to start dropping soon, because I love it when there's tiny little impalas running all around, and I still have yet to see an impala being born. I'm always either too early or just too late and just see them wobbling and full of gooey stuff on top of them, but just never at the right time. So hopefully this year will be the right year. Now, wonder, maybe Tristan will beat us in the Impala challenge as well, because he definitely got it last year. What do you say, VM? Do you want to join in the Impala challenge?
10 November.
10 of November, okay. I say 23rd of October, VM says 10th of November. And then, what do the girls in FC say? Megan, any thoughts? If you guys want to join in and let us know when you think that the Impalas will start dropping their babies, send us a question, well, not a question, a comment on hashtag Safari Live, and that way we can sort of start making teams. Tristan says the same as every year, the 6th of November, but he's just being cheeky because that's his birthday. So he can't have all the baby impalas for his birthday. That's just very greedy of him. But we'll see. If they do drop on the 6th of November, then I'm going to laugh, and whatever it is that he says or claims from now on, I'm just going to say okay. Because to get the rain day right, maybe this is his lucky year. Actually, maybe we should just make a team effort and tell Tristan to go play the lottery for all of us. I think we're missing out on an opportunity here, guys. We've come now onto the new road, because VM hasn't been on the new road, and we were hoping to maybe see any signs of Shadow, but nothing around here. I don't know if she's been spotted in one of the other lodges, or one of the other reserves, I should say. But so far, no luck. I think those impala are the first creatures that we've encountered in quite a while. Squirrels. Well spotted, VM. I think, obviously, I parked you right where the branches are. It's just gone down to the bottom there. It's still sticking out. On one of the knobs of the marula. Yeah, of course I would park you in the wrong spot. Just let me try and go slightly forward. Hopefully it will not move, because then it will be quite a nice view. No, okay. Definitely, no, okay. There it goes. You guys can see it all very beautiful. Whoop! And there it's gone. Now, we know where you live, little squirrel, so there's no escaping us. They've chosen this beautiful marula, and they are using now one of the holes in there just to live. And I'm sure they're all keeping warm in there, just like the majority of the animals are. So the ones that are lucky and can, they will be retreating in the holes, or burrowing, or going back into the termite mounds, because the weather is very chilly today. So likely that's why they've retreated in there. Also the noises of the car, they are sometimes skittish animals. So I think maybe they're just not feeling too confident with the weather today. So we're going to leave them and carry on. Hopefully we'll be surprised with something nice at the end of this road. It'll be like the rainbow, with a pot of gold, hopefully in the form of spots, but we'll see. Still a bit of the road left, and we might get lucky. Salty says 9th of November for the Impalas, and Joe says the 16th of October. Alright, I think 16th of October is a little bit too early, but I like it that there's somebody with a lot more optimism than me. So hopefully, October, here we go this year. It's such a good event to wait for them, and we're actually discussing in camp the other day how exciting it is that we've started hearing the Carmine bee eaters and the woodlands all the way in the Mara, so we know that they're on their way back. We just want them to get here already. But I think maybe we'll just give it a little bit more time for the woodlands. Whoop. Now, it's a bit bumpy on this road, and I just want to look around because we do know that Shadow loves going onto the termite mounds and hiding behind them. Gobus, you're saying that the clouds look very ominous. You have no idea. Let's have a look. Look at this. It's like a perfect thick cover. There was as I think it was Asterix and Obelix that used to say that the sky is going to fall on our heads. If there's a day where it looks like it, definitely today. But this is the typical summer view of South Africa. So as wonderful as it is, we still get those very hot days, but then for a few days at a time we get this type of weather, which is nice and refreshing every now and again. But I think I'm starting to freeze, so I wouldn't mind to get a little bit of sunshine just in between. But that is a very beautiful view. I think that is a typical view of the summertime. Just as we get those beautiful sunsets, we get a bit of the road, we get the marula tree, and then of course those beautiful clouds in the back. Just as long as they hold on and they don't rain upon us, I think everything will be fine. I think it might rain a little bit later today, but for now everything seems to be holding, and everything to the north of us is not looking as dark as this is. The south is looking definitely a lot darker, and perhaps there'll be a little bit of rain coming. Hopefully not for the time being, because I'm already wearing all of my jerseys, and if they get wet then it's going to be a problem to go and drive tomorrow morning. Maybe I'm gonna have to start using the blankets and shuka myself up like Brent and James have done in the Mara, just with the game drive blankets. Now, I'm looking at all these termite mounds, wondering where the spots are. Come girls, be nice. Come say hello. Seems like not too much. I mean, it would be a very good day for all the cats to move around, lions and leopards. But I have a strong feeling that a lot of them, especially the cats, managed to make kills yesterday, because on stormy weather they tend to have a bit of a more of a success rate. Oh, it seems like Tristan has found something small to show everyone, so let's go and find out what it is.
We have indeed. So we've come across a murder scene, unfortunately, and there is feathers strewn all over the place. So we've got a situation where there's just grey feathers everywhere. So I think a bird of prey must have grabbed something in this general vicinity and sat on this fallen over tree and plucked it. You can see, look at how many feathers are all over the ground. I went to investigate to see if there was any sign of a carcass there, but nothing. There's just feathers everywhere. So whatever it was sat right there and plucked this poor bird until there was nothing left. And I'm not 100% sure on what the bird is. I've got feathers for it, so it's a brown coloration. So my initial thought was maybe something like a francolin, something maybe like a crested francolin or along those lines. You can see it's got a bit of that creamy colored edge to it, so I think it could be one of them. Difficult to say though. My first thought when I initially saw it was that it could be a dove, and it could have been maybe something like a Cape turtle dove, or because most of the feathers are quite grey in coloration. But at the end of the day, this feather is not something that we would see on a dove very often. This is more francolin-like, and given the amount of feathers, it must have been fairly large. So some sort of bird of prey got hold of it, whether it was a goshawk, a sparrowhawk, a Wahlberg's eagle, very difficult to say. Given where it is and the perch that it was on and the small broken tree that it is, I would imagine it must have been a smaller bird of prey, so something like one of the accipiters, which is the sparrowhawks or goshawks or those kind of birds. So I think that's what it is. But unfortunately, this bird has met its end, so we're going to let that fly. Oopsie, off it goes. One last flight for those feathers as we then carry on and see if there's not something lurking at Janet Jackson's hole, because I'm hoping with this horrible weather that we've got, as you can see in front of me, it is very pleasant. Lots of rain coming our way at some point, hopefully not anytime soon. So we're going to try and avoid that big dark black cloud that is directly in front of me and start turning more to the east. But I believe that Jamie is still exploring the Mara and is out and about, and I believe that she was on a quest to try and find some lions, and I think she's been successful.
I'm hoping something very similar for our night ahead. Generally speaking, by this time of the evening, we can usually tell if we're going to spend most of our time wrapped up with our vehicle all closed up and the sides down and the tarpaulin over the top of us, just in case the rain does settle in. But I think we're going to be okay tonight. Though, we have relocated our sausage tree pride. I got to the point where I was starting to feel a little bit paranoid that they were going to get up and move away. So we've moved back to them now as it starts to get cool. And I think potentially we've arrived at a good time. The one lioness is up and looking at a herd of zebra that is slowly wandering unsuspectingly in this direction. One thing that is in the zebra's favour is the fact that there's also a giraffe moving with them. And giraffe is more likely to spot these lions in this lugger. Height advantage is a serious thing out here. And there we go. The zebra probably about 100 yards or so away. So still a fair distance. Still too close for these lions. And as yet, they're not showing any interest in them, apart from that one lioness. And one little cub. Last time I sat with them all night, the little cubs were actually stalking the zebras themselves. They were so hungry. That was our final TV show installment for that series, of course. Finale coming up in 2 days. Life has changed so dramatically for these cats in the last few weeks. Migration was here, it was teeming with food. There's wildebeest skeletons. There's wildebeest skeletons everywhere. There are lots of wildebeest skeletons scattered about the place. Now they have to work a little harder. Sneak up on the zebras. But for now, I think they're quite relaxed. All 4 cubs are here. It is a little bit of a tricky position, so we can't really see them. Most of them are well and truly flat cat. And I haven't had a good chance to see, because of the grass and the way that they're lying, I haven't had a chance to see just how hungry they are. Where did you lot disappear to last night? You made life very difficult. I'll see next. Sorry, I'm going to have to ask Rebecca to repeat that question because I was going to do it sneakily, but I missed the what zebras can do. Could zebras sense lions by distance? How far? Oh, can they work out how far away they are? Am I understanding that correctly? I'm sorry, I think I'm being a little bit slow here. Zebras certainly have a fantastic sense of smell and they have a fantastic sense of hearing. And there is a possibility, because the wind is blowing straight towards them, which is why I think they're a little bit nervous, there is a distinct possibility that they could smell these lions. The wind is blowing in their favor. In the zebra's favor, I mean. So yes, they could smell them. Would they be able to work out exactly where the lions are or exactly how far away they are? I don't think they'd be able to get a fully accurate read on the distance, but they have attracted the interest of little cub over there. Yes, one day you'll be big enough to hunt them, but not yet. Hey, you tree hugger. So interested in what's going on. So they could hear them. If they hear them, then they would get an accurate read on the distance. If they found the smell overpowering, then they'd probably know that the lions are quite close. But I don't think they could exactly gauge. Remember that the animals out here that are prey for things like lions or leopards or cheetah, their eyesight is not that bad. Yes, it's not the most powerful of their senses, and yes, they rely on hearing and smell as well, but they really do have very, very good eyesight as well. They're very geared towards movement. A little bit of love from from cub to mum. It's one of the older cubs. Looks like a little boy. It's got the fluffiness around the cheek and the top of the head. Yes, that could be dinner tonight. The cubs are hungry, or at least that cub's hungry. Oh, there's Cassie. Her name is not officially Cassie. It's just the little pale cub of the Sausage Tree Pride. I started calling her Cassie because of Casper. But that is not an official name. You're going to do exactly the same thing. Hey, girl. Sweet little lion cub, the smallest of the four of them, and definitely the lightest in colour, and you can really see it on a day like today when the light is the way that it is, slightly watery, shining through the clouds. You can really see that colour difference. Here she is, look at that. She's not a white lion, she's not a leucistic lion, but she is a very pale one. There we go. Settled down quite comfortably. We're going to play the patience game with our Sausage Tree Pride, potentially for the rest of the night. Let's go and find out if Allie's had any luck in tracking a different type of cat.
Well, seems like we're all playing the patience game today. Jamie's patiently waiting for the lions to get up to something. We are patiently waiting to find a sign of an animal that's alive. It seems like it's been quite quiet, and I think, like Kobus was saying, the ominous clouds are scaring the animals a little bit. So, other than that herd of Impala we had a little while earlier, or a little while ago, we haven't really seen anything else. And also the roads some of the roads haven't been driven, but there are no fresh tracks for any potential cats or anything around. So, I think we're gonna try and go to Twin Dams and see what's around there. Lauren from Illinois, you're wondering what made me decide to come to Africa and become a guide. Well, it was all really by accident or fate. I'm not too sure which one it was. I came to volunteer, and my initial plan was just to stay for a few months while I got this experience out of my system, because ever since I can remember, I had always wanted to come to Africa and see the wildlife up close and see elephants and lions and leopards and, well, all sorts of different creatures. So I came here and I just completely fell in love with the environment and everything else. So I started working in a wildlife rehabilitation center, and then after that, obviously by meeting friends or making new friends and hearing about all the different jobs that you can do in South Africa close to wildlife, then I found out that guiding was an option. So Lion Sands back then was offering a training course. It was 6 months training course, and then oh no, they didn't used to offer a placement then. It was just a training course, and then I went and did it there, and I think it's the most fun I've ever had in my entire life. I just absolutely loved every second of it, learning about the plants and the trees and the tracks, and it just became a way of life almost. And it's so addictive that after you've been contaminated by the guiding or the living in the bush bug, you don't really want to go back. So I've stayed here ever since. So I've been pretty lucky. Now, nope, Janet is not at home, so we shall carry on. So that was pretty much what got me all the way into South Africa. Now I've enjoyed it, and I've met some wonderful people, and now I'm trying this experience with Safari Live, which is wonderful in the way that it's quite a steep learning curve, because everything that you know, there's always, because there are so many viewers, and that is a fantastic thing. We're such a large community that even when you're looking at something, ooh, it's a squirrel alarming, there will be somebody that will think of a question or of something that you've never seen before, and that'll make you learn something else. And that is absolutely the part that I love about it. Now, I want to try and find out where the squirrel is, because it's in the street. Squirrel. Squirrel, where are you? Can you see the squirrel? Let's try going a little bit forward. Oh, maybe it's at the eagle that's flying there somewhere in the distance. I think that's maybe what the squirrel was alarming at. What are you? You look like a Wahlbergs, I'm going to say, hopefully, but it's making me dizzy seeing it flying like that. Probably should grab my binos like a real guide. Now, it's been quite interesting in terms of raptors lately, at all the different creatures that we've seeing flying around. Yeah, I'm going to go with Wahlberg's eagle just because of the tail. Woo! There's a few drops that I'm feeling on me. Alright, Rain. Off you go. Can you see the squirrel now? Naughty squirrel. Where are you looking at? So you are not looking at... You were not looking at the eagle. What got your eye? Perhaps maybe there was a snake, but I can't see anything slithering around on the ground. And she's gone dead quiet. What's wrong, squirrel? What is stressing you out? Do tell. Is it the rain? Are you upset about the rain? And off it's gone. I see why Tristan was heading away from this area, because the rain caught him. He failed to mention that I was going to get rained upon. Right, we're still going to carry on onto Twin Dam, see what's around that area. Hopefully get another look of the eagle that's flying around. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it's a Wahlberg's eagle, but I get a little bit dizzy when they go flying around like this. Oh, so Tristan's around Twin Dams too. Interesting. Let's go over to him. And it seems like he had 2 red-billed hornbills, so let's go over and maybe we'll bump into him at Twin Dams. You never know.
Well, we did have 2 red-billed hornbills that were feeding gleefully on termites, and then all of a sudden they moved. But there is one sitting just on the tree here now for us, and is looking rather fat and puffy, and it was going to town on termites, so I'm not surprised if it is extremely full at the moment. It's also because it's quite cold that they're all puffed up like this and are trying to sort of stay a little bit warm. But it is one happy hornbill, I would imagine, after the feast it just had. We watched them for quite some time. Now it's cleaning its beak, and I would be doing the same if I had just been digging around in elephant dung for termites. I'd also be cleaning myself up and making sure that I don't have bits of elephant dung all over my beak. Yes, we're talking about you. Almost looks like a mad scientist when it's looking at us like that, just kind of analyzing what's going on. I don't know where the second one went and what happened to it, but it was also around here somewhere. I think it's maybe flown off since then. But checked Twin Dams, really looked around nicely and tried to have a look and see if there isn't any sign of a leopard, but no tracks that I can see anywhere. The ground is so hard that even the tracks for a hippo that meandered here last night are faint, so it would be difficult. Look at that, having a little dust bath. That's cool. So you'll find birds do this regularly. They keep their feathers in good condition, also help to control parasites, exfoliate the skin, get rid of any dead skin cells. So that was quite cool to see. Nice one. Now what have you found? Now it's digging. You can see how well this beak works. It is amazing to watch these beaks go to town at the base of trees, and maybe there was a little insect that was there that it thought it could get to, but is now decided, nope, I'm going to carry on and move off. So there they go, hopping around, and they're rooting around in all the dung and varying holes that are in this area. Sinak, you're wondering if they're identified by their beaks. Well, not all of the hornbills, just 2 of them are identified by their beaks. So you've got the red-billed hornbill, this one, which, as you can see, has got a red beak, and then the yellow-billed has got a yellow beak, and then the rest have got different names. So ground hornbill is different, like Ali saw earlier. That's a bird that spends a lot of time on the ground, hence its name, ground hornbill. And then you've got trumpeter hornbills, because they trumpet and make quite a bit of noise. Silvery-cheeked hornbills, because they have a silver cheek, and then grey hornbills, because they're grey, and vice versa. There's a whole bunch of different names for them, but they're all got names for different things. It's just the yellow-billed and the red-billed that have the name after their beak that we see in this particular area. Some of them are named also after birders like Bradfields and the various other hornbill species that occur in southern Africa. So it's more just to do with just these 2 that their name is red-billed and yellow-billed, and it's also because those 2 are the most similar out of all of them that occur in this section. They occur in the same areas together, and so it was easy just to separate them by using red-billed and yellow-billed. And you can see how amazing their beak is to dig and to be able to root around for varying insects. Right, we're going to start making our way northwards back towards the Djuma via the Mulawati, because, well, there's a massive storm on its way and I don't want to get too wet, so we're going to try and head back and see if we can maybe be close enough that if it does rain we can get roof covers or rain covers. And while we do that, let's go across to Ali, who I believe has got her Wahlberg's eagle, and I'm sure that's what the squirrels were alarm calling about.
Well, I think this might be another one. Perhaps the ones that we saw yesterday at the beginning of the drive, because this seems to be also a bit of a paler Wahlbergs. And I think maybe as Djuma was asking earlier about the different color morphs of raptors, maybe Wahlbergs should win the prize just for confusing us, because they just seem to have all the possible morphs in them and all the possible different colorations. So this one is a bit of a paler one. Being quite unfriendly at the moment. It was facing us a few moments ago, but it's camouflaged. There we go. Hello. Camouflaging quite well against the apple leaf in the background. Now I think you can appreciate now why perhaps we haven't seen as many animals. I think the wind and just the general temperature is upsetting a lot of them, because look at that. That's what we're facing, and that's probably why Tristan wants to start heading off back to the camp. Now, it seems like most of the clouds are coming from the southwestern side, and they're pushing a little bit towards home, but if we look straight in front of us, then it doesn't look as bad, or at least it doesn't look as dark. It's still covered, but I think there's still hope, so I am holding on to the hope that we're not going to get rained upon this afternoon, and that we're going to be able to carry on looking for all sorts of creatures. Now, the Wahlberg seal is pretty happy perching all the way over there. I don't think it's going to get up too much. Likely it's considering as to where to go should the rain start falling once more. And funny enough, it was only its pale head that gave it away as we were driving past this particular area. It just stood up against that background. I was hoping that we were going to find Shangile probably perched up on one of the branches of the marulas all the way in the distance, but seems like no luck just of yet. Seems like today is a day for raptors and very tiny, mean little things. So let's carry on looking. Sure, we'll be able to find something else around here. Twin dams and Treehouse Dam are normally very good areas to start looking for all sorts of creatures, and I think Tristan's gonna head around the Molawati. That's been his plan the whole day, so hopefully he'll get something around there, because he just said to me he had that leopardy feeling, as he does, but his leopardy feeling was talking to him about Tamba. So fingers crossed Tristan will find Tamba, because if there's somebody that Tamba will come to, is to Tristan. Nothing there.